Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. AtR podcast. I'm Gio Garcia alongside Christian Mosqueda. Back for another one, Chris.
Yeah, man, we're back, man, and oh man, we're covering a big weekend in boxing. This is May 5th, right? May 5th weekend is the day that all boxing fans, set aside in their calendar. You move everything just to make room for the Canelo events, the Canelo fights, and man, this one did not disappoint, man. I'm gonna start with you, Gio. What were your thoughts on the fight, bro?
Like you said, it didn't disappoint. Thought it was a very good fight. We try to warn people, Chris. We try to warn people. Bivol was the real deal. I even gave you a chance to hop on the bandwagon, and guess what? You didn't take it, Chris. You didn't take it.
You did. I didn't hop on. I look like a fool right now.
Nah, but we said it was going to be a very good fight. We mentioned that Bivol was going to be, one of Canelo's toughest opponents, possibly his toughest now at the moment. So, that's exactly what happened. I think the fight did not disappoint. We, I think Bivol to me exceeded expectations, but we knew he was a real deal. We knew he was going to come to fight, and I think at the end of the day, it was a very good fight.
Yeah, I gotta ask you. I know that you weren't surprised with Bibol's boxing skills. Were you surprised at how I want to say how soundly he defeated Canelo, and were you surprised by Canelo's lack of I want to say his lack of answers for Bivol?
I was I was surprised. Canelo looked very fatigued at the end. From the
Hmm.
middle rounds to the end, he looked very fatigued. Didn't seem to have an answer. A lot of people were saying different things. The vegan diet, him going up to 75. Not sure what happened, but um, we predicted a Canelo win. Most people were
Yeah,
disrespecting Dmitry Bivol, right? Most people were saying, "Oh, Canelo's gonna stop him. Canelo's gonna knock him out. He's just another European punching bag." But this guy, he's been a champion for a while. He's been a very good boxer for a while, and I think he showed it in this fight. He proved the whole world wrong, and the good thing for his boxing fans is that we might get it again. And the good thing
yeah,
for Canelo and Bivol is those guys are going to make more money in the rematch. So I'm not sure that
yeah.
there are any losers in this whole situation. But to me, if there is a loser, it's Triple G. He's probably punching the air right now, and very mad that he probably won't get that last payday. And if he does, he'll probably have to wait until next year.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it was just a great exhibition of skill, discipline. For Bivol sticking to the game plan, not allowing the moment to be too big for him. Again, it was his first, in a sense, mega fight. All eyes on him. Everybody was gonna start to watch this fight. Not just the fans, but other boxers. Your peers, people that do the same craft that you do. And I thought it was just a testament to his character. How disciplined he was. You know, how he shows himself to be pre-fight. Very respectful, very quiet, not loud at all, just very serene and cool. And it was just it was impressive to see that discipline. Against the like we mentioned the top guy, the pound for pound number one, the guy that's just been on a tear. Just breaking through that 168. A lot of people, including ourselves, we gave people a lot of credit, but we didn't think he was gonna pull it off in a sense, or at least I didn't think he was gonna pull it off. But again, this is why boxing is a beautiful sport, man. It makes believers out of the naysayers, and so again, like we gotta give a lot of props to Bivol for giving a great display of boxing skill against again the number one guy.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were disappointed in Canelo or saying that he underperformed or this and that. But I think that just tells me that they just weren't giving Bivol credit. Most people weren't giving
Yeah,
Bivol a chance. So um, we knew that Bivol was capable of this. We thought Canelo would be able to pass his test, but he didn't. So we'll see what happens now. I know Bivol mentioned that he'll he'll go down to 168 and challenge Canelo for all the titles.
Yeah.
So that's another possibility, and that probably suits Canelo better. You know,
Yeah.
his two fights in the 175-pound division, you know, he did. I can't say he impressed. You know, uh, against Kovalev, he didn't wipe him out. Obviously, he got the knockout, but up to that point,
Mm-hmm.
that was a very close fight. It was fairly even, I would say, on most people's scorecards. Um, in this fight, he struggled against a bigger Bivol. So I think 168. You know, he realistically for Canelo's body frame, he should be at 154 or 160, right? He he
Mm-hmm.
he kind of has the same build as the Kenan Adams, you know, and
Yeah.
Brandon Adams fights at 54 or 60, 54 preferably. And actually, Brandon helped Bivol prepare for this fight. Um,
Yeah.
but Canelo, he realistically should be at 54 or 60. He's fighting 2, 3 weight classes above that. So I think he dared to be great. He fell short, um, but I don't think he should get criticized for that. I think he should be applauded for that. And that's just a testament to his greatness, right? He could have taken easier fights at 168. You know, PBC
Mm-hmm.
offered him some fights, a catch weight with Errol Spence. I think that does nothing for him. You know, he would have been criticized for beating a smaller fighter. So, you know, he took the tougher route. Um, and now, you know, if he gets that rematch, I'm sure he'll make more money and we'll see if that happens at 68 or 75. But I think Bivol came in and shook things up a little bit. You know, you can't be mad at that. You know, Cambosos did it in the lightweight division.
Yeah.
You know, Bivol doing a little bit of the same. Obviously, 175 is not Canelo's division. People still see Better BF as the number one guy at 75.
Mm-hmm.
But if Bivol can go down to 68 and shake things up there, I think things will get very, very interesting.
Yeah. You just mentioned that people shook things up. And we'll get into we'll get into a little bit later if you feel like he shook up the pound for pound rankings. But I'm gonna ask you first, Gio, how did you score the fight? How many rounds, and what were your thoughts on the judge's decision?
So I watched the fight again after, you know, watching it live. Um, Watched the highlights several times. I thought the decision was right. I thought it was a close fight than a closer fight than most people, at least. A lot of people were not giving Canelo credit, and I think most of those people were scoring rounds for Bivol because they thought he was overachieving. When in fact, you know, this was a 50-50 fight. Look, we said it last week when you read the odds. You know, the odds were
Mm-hmm.
disrespectful. I think when we read it, it was about 7-1 underdog for Bivol, and as the fight got closer, those odds got a little closer as well. But I think on fight night he was like 4-1 or something like that. And we were mentioning how Big Bro, I remember he wrote on the live chat, this is close to a 50-50 fight, so this will be a
Mm-hmm.
smart bet. But and you guys see the scorecards there. First 4 rounds, all 4 judges actually gave it to Canelo. Um, a lot of people were saying that Canelo lost almost every round, and but honestly, I had him up in those first 4 rounds. I had him up. I thought he won like the first 3 or 4 rounds. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know how people were scoring this fight. Bivol was landing a lot of punches on the gloves, but he was certainly throwing more than Canelo. He was more active than Canelo throughout the round. So you can see how people would score the majority of the rounds for Bivol. But I thought up to going into the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th round, I thought Canelo needed to win some of those rounds to win the fight. And in
Mm-hmm.
reality, it was Bivol who closed out strong. But I think the scorecards were fair. A lot of people were I even saw some 118s, 110s for Bivol. I mean, those people just didn't watch the fight. But I thought it was a good fight, good chess match.
Yeah.
Bivol just more active, bigger, stronger. Canelo had good moments. I think he landed the cleaner punches, the harder punches, but it was Bivol's activity, his jab, that really controlled most of the rounds. I don't know. How many did
Yeah.
you have?
I initially, I when I first saw the fight, I thought people. controlled it 9-3. I also went back and looked at it. It was a little bit closer. I don't agree with the 115, 113. I thought it was maybe like 116, 112, so 8-4 in a sense. But yeah, I was a little surprised with the judges. I was like, that's a little too close. Just based on just watching the match, I thought Bivol won it convincingly. I didn't feel like it should have been that close. And I think that's why a lot of fans, a lot of people were a little upset in the sense that I know that you think that the fight was a little bit closer, but I think the consensus was that it should have been a little bit wider. And it just shows you that, obviously the powers that be, Las Vegas, they all
Oh, here
favor
we
Canelo
go.
a bit. It is. He
Here
is
we
the
go.
face of boxing. He is the moneymaker.
There you go,
And it just
Chris, with
shows
the
like Bivol was
false.
really up against a lot, and he
There you
still
go,
managed to
Chris, with
win.
the false theories. I think, I didn't catch this live, but Chris was one of those people who said, well, yeah, Bivol is not going to win the decision in Vegas. So I think we can put
I
that
didn't
to
think so.
rest.
Hey, and it
Where
shows
do
me
people
that
get these things
that
from? I don't
it's
understand.
a little bit closer than I feel like it should have been.
Hey, stop listening
Again,
to
it
ESPN,
was
Chris. Stop listening to
again.
ESPN.
I do agree that Canelo did land the powerful shots, not as cleanly as I feel like you say, but he did land like the more powerful shots. Bivol's not known for you can say that outright power, but he is a very strong guy for his size. But this brings me to my next question, Gio. We also do know that Canelo changed to a vegan diet, prior to this fight. Do you feel like that could have affected his strength? Did you feel like he was just as strong? Do you feel like maybe he didn't look as strong, as powerful as before? What were your thoughts on that? Do you think that affected him at all?
He needs that carne, man. Yeah, I don't know. I was surprised when they said, they didn't make it a big deal, but I heard some reports throughout the camp saying he turned vegan. I don't know. I've never turned vegan before. Some people, I know some fighters who are vegans, and they say they feel stronger with that diet. But I don't know if I'm obviously no expert, but I don't know if that's a good idea if you're going up in weight and doing that. But I don't know. I don't know enough about that stuff to say. But Canelo obviously looked fatigued. He hadn't looked like that since like the Triple G fights. Obviously, anytime you're fighting a strong fighter, you have to exert more energy. In this case, he was fighting a bigger, stronger guy, and he came out throwing very hard punches. Essentially, all Canelo punches are power punches. So
Yeah,
I think once we found out that he couldn't stop Bivol, it was like, okay, he needs to rack up the points. And I don't think Canelo's used to that. He's used to breaking guys down round by round. Against everybody, he gives away rounds, against Billy Joe, against Plant. But in reality, we kind of knew how those fights would end. In this
yeah,
fight, once he couldn't hurt Bivol the way he wanted to, that's when he wasn't really racking up points. He wasn't scoring as much as Bivol. But you got to give credit to Bivol because he fought the same way from round 1 to round 12. He was always consistent with the jab, defensively responsible. He took some big shots, but he took them well. Those
yeah,
big uppercuts that Canelo was able to land, he kept, coming forward. And one thing is he doesn't fight with an ego, Bivol. When he got hit, he wasn't looking to get Canelo immediately back. He would take his time and get him maybe he would get him back maybe a minute later or 2 minutes later.
yeah,
He never was frustrated, was never angry. He fought the same way from round 1 to round 12. And I think that ultimately helped him because he just stayed composed. I think he realized I have one job, and that's just to go in every round, try to box this guy, try to use my size advantage, not going for the
yeah,
knockout. Look, he has, with this fight, 7 unanimous decisions in a row. So
yeah,
he's not a guy who just wants to blow your head off in round 1. This guy, he knows, he understands that, he's ready to box for 12 rounds and take his time and not get frustrated. So I think he did a very good job. But yeah, I think one thing we can all agree on is 175 probably is not the best weight class for Canelo. Like I said, I commend him for wanting to be great, for taking that risk. Most fighters don't. In the past, I don't know how many 20 years, let's say, how many guys have done it. I mean, probably just Manny Pacquiao, right, going up in weight and beating bigger guys. So, he took the risk. He fell short, and we'll see. I think the rematch happens. I think I would be shocked if the rematch doesn't happen, simply because there's just so much money now in
Yeah.
play. They asked Bivol about the rematch, and he said, "Of course. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to make a lot of money again, so why not?"
Yeah. I completely agree. I think Bivol disrespected Canelo in a sense in his boxing, but respected him enough and not engaging, not getting caught in those counters. There was a minute in one of those rounds where Bivol just stood away from like for 30 seconds when Canelo was against the ropes, because you knew Canelo was trying to bait him in for a counter, and Canelo or Bivol was like, "I'm not having it. Stick to the game plan. Like you said, I'm not gonna beat you up completely. I'm just gonna beat you. That's it. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna outbox you." And that's what he
yeah,
did. Um, I like the comment that you said earlier, Gio. You said we're not experts when it comes to the vegan and all that. And I agree. I'm no expert either, but I did reach out to an expert, our boy Andy Aguilar, and I did ask him about that, Gio. I asked him about the vegan diet and the switch and what were his thoughts. So I did pose him the question. I asked him, Andy, is it possible for a switch in diet such as meat protein to a vegan protein? Will that affect your power in case of Canelo? You know, and this is what he said. He said, absolutely. He said that was a pretty dumb move to do that during a camp, in my opinion. And Andy's our boy. He said that he's more than happy to break it down on a video in the future. But yeah, this is coming from a strength and conditioning expert, somebody that works with nutrition and all that. And hey, man, if he said that, that's not a smart move, especially this close to camp. You kind of have to take that into consideration. But yeah, that's our boy Andy Aguilar, strength and conditioning. Him saying this was not a smart move for Canelo to switch his diet.
Look, I think in a dangerous fight like against Bivol, I don't think it's a good idea to experiment with anything. Period. But yeah, I hope we can get that breakdown by Andy soon. I'm very intrigued by that possible
Yeah,
conversation. So, and Andy, of course, has a good reputation of working with guys here in LA. He worked with Andy Ruiz. He worked with Jaime Munguia, Leo Santa Cruz, Diego Pacheco, and the list goes on and on. So, very respectable opinion by Andy. So I can't wait to hear, what else he has to say about that. Let's go to some
you're
comments here.
gonna
Oh,
ask.
all right, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say it appears that Canelo was out of answers. Out of obviously a lot of it had to do with Bivol just bewildering him with his boxing skills, but it seemed like he was out of answers. He couldn't adjust. It seemed like Eddie Reynoso also couldn't give him those answers or you know the right advice to adjust. Do you feel like that Eddie could have done more in that corner, or do you feel like ultimately it was up to Canelo to figure it out?
It's funny because I had this convo. I had the chance to talk to Sean. I'm actually wearing the Just Boxing shirt. We had this convo, and he mentioned something very interesting, and I agreed with him 100% that Eddie and Canelo, they don't really have to make many adjustments throughout fights. Um, Canelo fights in a similar fashion. For the most part. He's gonna break his opponents down little by little. They don't always have to adjust in fights. I mean, they haven't they had only lost one fight before, so their adjustments come from fights like, all right, the first Triple G fight to the second Triple G fight. They adjusted, they studied film, and then did what they had to do, but they never really make drastic adjustments. So possibly, yeah, I think Eddie could have probably given them more advice, but I'm not sure if Canelo would have been able to implement or change the game plan. He just seemed too tired. I've never seen him this tired toward the end of the fight. And of course, when you're fighting a bigger guy, like I said, everything takes more energy, everything takes more power. So And then it doesn't help that the guy in front of you is throwing, 50 jabs per round. So,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, I think ultimately it was a very good fight. I would want to see it again. I think they would be able to make adjustments if another fight happens. Like I said, 68 is probably more favorable for Canelo. And honestly, I think he wins a rematch. Um, in every round, it's not like Bivol was beating him up in every round. I think if Canelo lands five more punches in every round, I think he would steal a lot of those rounds. You know, I think his defense was decent, or actually very good, except when he was against the ropes. Trying to bait Bivol into something. But I mean, Bivol missed about 80% of his punches, right? And I
Yeah.
found this fight very similar to Triple G against Canelo, the first one. Triple G, like Bivol, normally a very accurate puncher. Canelo made them miss a lot. He just wasn't very active throughout the round. So it's hard to score rounds for him if he's not punching back. He was bobbing and weaving and blocking most of the punches, but nothing was coming back for Bivol a lot of times. So, I saw a lot of similarities between this one and the Triple G one fight. People weren't giving Canelo credit in that fight, but against Triple G, the first one, he made Golovkin miss a lot of punches. And then in the second fight, he was a little more active and won that fight. He came in a little lighter in weight, was able to move around more, throw more punches. So I'm intrigued by rematch if it does happen with Bivol. And like I said, I don't see it not happening, because both guys are interested. Bivol mentioning 68, fighting for all the belts there. So um, I can see this fight happen in September. And like I said, the big loser is right now is Triple G. He's probably punching the air right now, because he's going to have to wait, or if he gets that third fight at all.
I agree that there's a lot of similarities between this fight and the first Triple G. This is
Because
the
people were
first
people
time
were
in a while
saying
that we
people were
see
saying the
Canelo
same
get pushed
thing
back.
against Triple G the first time. Oh, Canelo got beat. It wasn't even close. Triple G was winning most rounds. But if you watch closely, like I said, Canelo made Triple G miss a lot, just like he made Bivol miss a lot. But you know, it's kind of like that Mayweather effect. When Mayweather wouldn't dominate rounds, they would automatically give it to the other guy, right? I think if we detach the names Canelo and Bivol, and you see two guys randomly fighting at a local club fight or something, you would probably be like, "Oh, it's a closer fight than most people are saying." But I think because it's Canelo and we're used to seeing him dominate, if he didn't dominate a round, it was like, okay, automatically that's a Bivol round. And like I said, I watched the times a couple times. I watched the fight a couple times already, and I just don't think people are giving Canelo credit for a lot of rounds.
How did you say you scored it again? This fight once you saw it again?
I don't know. I think I would agree with the judges, 7-5.
Okay.
When I watched it live, I thought it was closer, but once I heard the judges say 7-5, I'm like, yeah, there's I can't find 7 rounds for Canelo, so it has to be Bivol. So I'm not
Yeah.
mad at that. I'm not mad at that. Like I said, I scored the first 3 out of 4 for Canelo, and I think he was able to steal a couple more rounds somewhere in the
Yeah.
next 8 rounds. So a lot
Yeah.
of people just weren't giving him credit. I know the zone on the live broadcast had like 117, 111 or something. They just gave him a bunch of rounds in a row for Bivol, but I think it was a lot closer
Yeah.
than that for sure.
Yeah. No, I agree with what you said when Canelo doesn't look sensational because he's oil people. He's we're used to seeing him dominate, especially after the third, fourth rounds, and I think that's what people expected. And if you don't see that, you're most likely going to give it to the other guy. Which in this case, I that's okay because Bivol was the champion. He is a champion. And if you go by those standards, you do have to give it to Bivol. But I do agree that if I was one of those guys that, that gave the fight to Lara the first time I saw it because, maybe I was a prisoner of that moment. Maybe I didn't feel like Canelo looked sensational, and I could have given it to Lara when I saw that fight back. I was a little bit more centered, and I was like, okay. Even though Canelo didn't look like the Canelo that we expect, he still won in my eyes. Not this time though. This time it was Bivol for the most part. Again, I do agree with the 7-5. I saw it more 8-4, but yeah, I see what you mean. A lot of people are just used to Canelo being the dominant force and losing very few rounds. And if he does lose rounds, it's usually those early rounds where he just gives them away and then he downloads and he takes over. And that's not what we saw this time. And so, Bivol the rightful winner. I gotta ask Gio. This now accrues 3 consecutive losses for Canelo team and Eddie Reynoso. With this defeat, do you think that Eddie Reynoso is effectively out of the running for Trainer of the Year?
Well, yeah, I don't think he has a chance now.
It's hard to two-peat, man. It's hard.
Yeah. I think we mentioned that. No, I think maybe Big Bro mentioned that in one of the live chats. Like Canelo team's about to have a rough couple of months.
Yeah, that's crazy because a year ago, just 4 months ago and back, there was no touching this Canelo team. Everybody wanted to flock over to the team. Even thought, Ryan Garcia has made a mistake by leaving. But again, everybody can be beat.
His fighters weren't even the favorites though. What's his name? Julio Cesar Martinez wasn't the favorite. Valdez wasn't the favorite. Canelo was a favorite in the eyes of most people, but we saw it as a 50-50 fight. It should have been, on the odds a lot closer. But look, those are 3 very good opponents that he lost to. So I don't know if I put too much weight on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we again, it's what Canelo had done the last year and a half, just breaking through those 168s. And I think we also, even though we give a lot of credit to Bivol, we just didn't, or a lot of people didn't feel, he had ever fought this kind of a fighter, but obviously he believed in himself. His skills were enough. His size was enough. The game plan was enough. You don't have to, destroy the guy in front of you to win. You just got to beat him, and that's what he did. With that, I got to ask you, I feel like it was clear that Bivol felt like the B-side even as a champion. We know that he wasn't able to enter the ring with his flag, with his anthem because of the whole politics with Russia going on. Do you feel like Bivol deserves to get some of that A-side treatment if they run it back?
Yeah, without a doubt. And then they asked him that during the post-fight interview. They're like, "Hey, how'd you feel about Canelo's being first on the posters and him walking second and this and that? They didn't play the Russian anthem. He didn't care about anything, man. That's why he's that good of a fighter, because this guy doesn't care. He just said, I don't care. I just wanted to fight. He's like, thank you to Eddie. Thank you, Canelo, for the opportunity. I just wanted to fight. I don't care about that other stuff. This guy's not a diva like other guys, Miguel Cotto, that would fight over those type of things, those little details. This guy just wanted to fight. But yeah, if they run it back, of course, they're going to give him a bigger piece of the pie and he'll have more say in all this stuff. But we'll see. If they fight at 68, Canelo's the champion. So, we'll see how they do those things. But I did want to say, like,
something controversial, Gio. I'm going to say something controversial. I believe he deserves a bigger piece of the pie, more money. I believe as a champion, he should walk out, last. Man, I know I'm gonna get heat for this.
So he deserves the biggest piece of pie for the second fight.
No, not the biggest pie, but a bigger pie for sure. The money.
Don't change your answer now.
Maybe more than. No. But let me say what I was gonna say.
Are you gonna say Bivol's gonna get paid $70 million?
I know we're not supposed to put politics in this, but I still don't think they should play the anthem. I still don't think we should play the anthem. And I know that's something like, I know it's gonna divide people. I believe he should get the money. He should walk out second. I still don't think he should play the anthem. I know we're not supposed to bring politics in, but I think there's a bigger message that we should send out. But give him his money and give him his his respect as a champion walking out second, but the anthem and the flag at this moment still has to stay out, in my opinion. But yeah, that's my take.
I agree with that,
Let's move
but
on, Gio. I gotta ask you so
man,
this
hold on. Let
with
me
this.
answer to this. Hold up.
Hold up, let's go to the
Don't move
comments.
too quick. Don't try to rush past your controversial statements here. Nah, I agree with that, but I don't think we give a shit, dude. We're here to watch a boxing fight. I did find that interesting though. There was no Russian flags. They announced him as a fighter from Indio, California. I'm sure he agreed to all that
Oh,
stuff
did
too.
they? Oh,
Yeah, on the intros, they put Indio, California right under his name. There was nothing, no affiliation to Russia. You know, he wasn't even born in modern day Russia. You know, he
yeah.
represented Russia in the amateurs, but I'm sure he's not gonna say anything. You know, anytime you speak against your country, people will call you names and unpatriotic and this and that, traitor, you know. So I'm sure he's not going to speak out against that stuff. But I mean, I think it's clear he obviously had to agree to a lot of this stuff. You know, they're not going to write Indio, California under his name just because, you know, I'm sure he was aware of all this stuff. And for me, I took it as he's making a statement. He just can't flat out say it because the politics going on in his country. But yeah, I don't. Your statement, obviously, I don't find it too controversial. I think it would be more controversial if they put Russia flags all over the place and they played the anthem and did all this and that. Because look, nowadays, if you don't speak up against something, you're that means you're with it. That means you're supporting it. So
True.
yeah, I didn't think that was too controversial, but. And throughout the whole buildup, they didn't even really mention him being a Russian fighter. He didn't say anything about that stuff. And I don't know if his PR team told reporters to not ask about anything related to Russia, but, you know, he made it through the whole buildup and the whole fight now, you know, kind of avoiding that topic. So he'll be all right, man. He'll be all right.
Do you know if they showed his fight in Russia, or is it were they banned from watching? Do you know?
Not sure. I should have paid more attention to that because normally DAZN, when they write their articles about how to watch the fight and what
Yeah.
channels, they'll normally write on there, oh, you can watch DAZN Italy or DAZN in Latin America. But yeah, I didn't pay attention to whether Russia was listed or not.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, we'll figure that out and we'll let you guys know for next time. But
Are we gonna get
that's something
flagged for saying the R word?
I think we lose. I think we lose. Yeah, I think we lose some subscribers or something. But yeah, I gotta ask you, Gio, with this defeat, in your opinion, does Canelo lose his number one pound for pound status? Yes or no? And if so, why?
Canelo?
Mm-hmm.
No, man. He's just so far ahead of the competition. I mean, I think the only
He'll take
guys
10 losses and he'll still be hit.
probably. I think the only guys that can possibly put that status in any type of danger is probably Usyk. Usyk, if he's able to beat Joshua again and then beat Tyson Fury, if Tyson Fury is still going to fight. But other than that, he's just so many miles ahead of everyone else that that shouldn't even be a discussion. You know, if you can find any other guy who has moved up in weight and beaten that many champions and become undisputed by beating 3 champions, you know, undefeated guys fighting 2 weight classes above his. I mean, if you find that guy, then maybe we can put him up there as number 1. But yeah, I think he's just so far ahead of the competition that I don't even think that should be a discussion. ESPN will tell you otherwise though, because they have to. But yeah,
Chris Mannix will tell you that Buddy Crawford is the new number 1. But
you know that
yeah,
was funny.
That's up for opinion.
It was funny because we were I was texting with Clyde after the fight, and I was telling him how Crawford is the only guy in the world who doesn't fight but somehow moves up on these lists. Like the guy fights once a year, and somehow he'll like go down and then climb back up without even fighting. I don't know. Those guys are just weird. That's why you shouldn't listen to the media, man. Those guys half the time they don't even know what the hell they're saying.
Hey, not even the great Gary Russell moves up, man. He just stays in the same level, you know. But dang, okay.
Why
With that said,
do
do
you
you
think
believe that Bivol enters the pound for pound ranks? And if
yeah,
so, what position do you put him?
yeah, I think Bivol goes up. I mean, anytime you beat the number one pound for pound fighter in the world, you gotta go up there. And not only that, he's beaten I think two other very good names on his resume. Obviously, John Pascal, maybe not in his prime, but that's still a name. No, he was still a champion for a long time in that division. Um, and obviously Joe Smith Jr., who's currently a champion. So you add the cherry on top, Canelo, and of course he's got to be up there. I don't know, number six, number seven. I don't really have a list off the top of my head, but of course I think he has to be in there. Let me ask you that same question. And is Canelo still your top pound for pound fighter in the world?
Yeah, I'll answer the second one first. The Bivol, I do believe Bivol enters the pound for pound. You mentioned a good comparison earlier. You said the way Teofimo beat. I know you have your thoughts on that fight, but yeah, it was the way Teofimo beat Loma when Loma was number one. I believe in that moment.
Yeah,
It uh it, it,
the
it
one I was gonna use example was when Soren Visai beat Chocolatito twice. You know, first one a
mhm,
little bit controversial. Second one he knocked him out. So he definitely got into my list, Soren Visai, after beating
yeah,
Chocolatito, who was the top guy at the moment.
yeah. So I put Bivol top 10, maybe not as high as top six, but his like you say, he does have Joe Smith Jr. He does have Jean Pascal. But I'll put him top. I'll put him number 10. I do believe he's gonna move up because based on this skill set that he said, if he can beat Canelo, who he's gonna beat other guys, man. So obviously that Joe Smith Jr. versus Bet3 is gonna go down, and obviously he's gonna probably, after this whole Canelo thing settles, he's gonna eventually have to fight one of those guys again. So I'm sure he's gonna move up a little bit more. But yeah, I have him in the top 10. As for Canelo, does he lose his number one pound for pound status? I think he shares it right now with Usyk, in my opinion. Like you said, Canelo really has done so much more than any of those guys, but a loss has to kind of, bring you back a little bit. I want to before I had Canelo one and Usyk number two. I would have to have them share that, and obviously Canelo's gonna have to bounce back. Usyk is gonna have to, like you said, beat another of the top guys, whether it's Joshua, whether it's Fury, to claim that number one spot. So yeah, man, I'm gonna again. I know a lot of people are gonna disagree. Some people are gonna say that Canelo deserves to be number two, lose a spot, but no, I'm gonna keep him and Fury tie for first, man. And I want to see which one of these guys is able to kind of distance themselves a little bit. But yeah, I don't. I'm not gonna put a guy like Terrence Bud Crawford on top of a Canelo. I'm not gonna put a guy like even a Naoya Inoue, who who's very talented and he's up there in the top five. Yeah,
Yeah,
they still haven't done enough, in my opinion.
I think boxing is the only sport where it's like you're only as good as your last fight, right? Even Big
Yeah,
Bro right here saying that he would have to be second behind Usyk, but I think boxing is the only sport in the world where boxing fans just make up their own rules. You know,
yeah,
like if you're the number one team in basketball and you lose to any other team, you're probably still going to be in first place, right?
yeah.
Or like in soccer, a team like Manchester City, if they lose a game, you're probably still going to be in first place. But boxing,
Mhm.
for some reason, you lose a fight and it's like, oh shoot, the end of the world is here, right? When Ruiz beat Joshua, I still didn't rate Ruiz above Joshua simply because you got to respect the resumes. You got to respect what Joshua did before that, beating most of the
Yeah,
guys in the top 10. And then he came back and avenged that loss anyway. So I don't really flip flop like that. I just know that what Canelo has done, no one else has done in this era. And not many guys have done it in history, period. So
mhm.
yeah, I don't flip flop really with that stuff. One fight is one fight, especially going up in weight, against a bigger guy, a very good opponent like Bivol. I don't really hold that against him. It's kind of like when
Yeah,
Mikey lost to Errol Spence. Like everybody was giving him shit, but my opinion didn't change on Mikey
yeah,
Garcia. It's just that you bit off more than you can chew, So just go back down and wait and try to get it back. But yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see. A lot of people have opinions, but most people said Canelo was going to knock out Bivol. So I don't respect most people's opinion, period.
Yeah, and I think with time we'll see that Bivol is going to continue just to, continue to rack up those wins, and we'll see why. We're going to see why he was able to beat a Canelo. He's got very 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 good skill, very underrated skill prior to this fight. And again, not a lot of people knew who this guy was. They didn't know his character. They didn't know his discipline. They didn't know his work ethic. And yeah, man, that shows up in the ring. Again, I'm very impressed with how that moment wasn't too big for him. But yeah, with this, Gio, I'm gonna pose another question. If you're Bivol's manager, what 3 fights do you line up for Bivol? Which fight makes him the most money? And B, which one further cements his legacy in the next 2 years?
Hey, man, you try to fight Canelo 3 more times. That's what you try to do. Get the
Maybe.
most money you can, man. Yeah, obviously Canelo. Shit, if Canelo beats him back, if I'm his manager, Bivol's, I'm asking for another rematch, make it a trilogy. Obviously, the biggest fight, the biggest threat, I think, to Bivol is better BF, assuming he beats Joe Smith Jr. You know, if Joe Smith Jr. somehow pulls that off, you hop on that fight. You hop on that fight because you already outboxed Joe Smith Jr. Bivol really control all of that fight against Joe Smith. I think Joe Smith he's gotten a little bit better since then, but if somehow he's able to pull it off, you hop on that fight right away if you're Bivol, because you can become undisputed in that division, right? But try to get as many Canelo fights, I think. Try to get as many Canelo fights as you can. Let's go to some comments here real quickly. Aaron, I think we mentioned Loma, so he's saying, in your opinion, is Loma slightly over or underrated or just the right rating? You want to take that away, Chris? Because I don't want you to copy my opinions or my takes.
Yeah, no. Obviously, we know that that Loma is very skilled. He obviously came into the pro ranks a little later after having conquered the amateur ranks. But he only had like one or two, very very few losses in the amateur ranks, and he was able to collect titles in the fastest amount of time possible. He remained in the top pound for pound ranks for many many years. He was only beaten by a very good fighter in Teofimo Lopez. I know a lot of people, like you said, they bounce a lot. They threw him off their top 10. A little disrespectful in my opinion. I have him right now. I want to say, I can't remember exactly what place, but I think I have him fifth or sixth. But I know that he can climb back up once he comes back to fighting. He, like I said, he's a very ultra skilled fighter, and I think it still cause trouble in those divisions once he is able to, come back to boxing. But yeah, his mind is somewhere else right now. But that's my ranking for Loma. What about you, Gio?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he means current rating or overall rating. As I post that poll right there on your screen that you see just pop up, can Canelo beat Bivol in a rematch? You guys can go ahead and vote. I'll leave it open until the end of the podcast. But I think Lomachenko is underrated, man. Look, this is a guy who, just like Canelo, not fighting in his division. I think Lomachenko could have easily been the greatest small fighter ever that we probably ever saw if he stayed at 126 or even 130. I think he would have wiped out those divisions. He chose to, choose bigger, literally bigger challenges by going to 35 and challenging these bigger fighters, giving them at times, big advantages. But I think he's underrated because of that, because he also was a guy who was a champion in his third fight or fourth fight, whatever it was. He took on freaking City Salido in his second fight. Obviously lost that one, but I think that was a controversial decision too. And I don't know anyone who would have fought a tough, rugged Mexican veteran in their second fight. Lomachenko doesn't seem to care about, those big challenges, as far as taking the big risks and protecting that O. He always took on the biggest challenges, and he still continues to do that. And he could have become undisputed at 35. Like we stated in the past few weeks, he obviously chose the bigger fight, the fight that he's fighting at home, in his country. But yeah, I think he's overrated. Any fighter who's fighting above their weight class and can still beat the top opponents, to me, they're always going to be underrated, because most guys nowadays drain themselves to make weight for an hour, weigh in, and then they bulk back up 20 pounds. Most of the guys at 140 are 6 feet tall. That's insane. They only have to make weight for a few minutes, and then they rehydrate and all that stuff. But hope that answers that question. I know a lot of people don't like Loma, but as Big Bro stated in the comments, he's probably the best boxer in the world right now if you're not looking at records, if you're not looking at his record. As far as skill, I would have to agree with that. There's nobody more skillful than Loma at the moment.
I'm gonna ask you. A lot of people, obviously we saw the post fight interviews, and obviously a lot of the fans in attendance booed Bivol, but I think after the dust settled, you saw Twitter sphere, you saw social media. A lot of people were showing love for Bivol. They were like, you know what, like he's very humble, disciplined fighter. In a sense, he outskilled the best fighter currently. Do you feel like Bivol could reach number one pound for pound status one day, or do you feel like it was just the bigger guy just beating the smaller guy?
If he's able to beat Beterbiev, then yes. If he beats Canelo and Beterbiev, we're talking about Bivol, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think if he's able to beat those two guys, he has a legitimate, chance, because now he beat the best guy at 68, even though he fought him at 75, and he would beat the best guy at 75. I'm not sure if he beats Beterbiev, man. Beterbiev is bigger, stronger. He is older though. Bivol has that advantage over him, but that's a dangerous, dangerous fight, man. That's a dangerous fight. There's a reason why Joe Smith Jr. up to this point hadn't fought Beterbiev, and Bivol up to this point hasn't fought him, because that's the. I know you like to use the term boogeyman, but Beterbiev is the real boogeyman. He has stopped every single one of his opponents. But if Bivol can beat Canelo and beat Beterbiev, then yes, I think he has a legitimate argument.
And you mean Bivol beating Canelo as a 168 pounder, correct? Or do you mean just that again at 75?
Well, if he doesn't lose to Canelo, if the fight doesn't happen again, I think beating Canelo still has to be impressive, regardless of the weight difference there. If he's able to beat Canelo again, now, of course, you have to give him that. But I think, I'm not sure, Bivol only has 20 fights, not sure how much longer he'll continue to fight. He's 31 years old. I'm sure this Canelo paycheck is going to look very, very good. We'll see what they do with his career. I read an article where his manager was saying that they had actually approached Beterbiev for a fight. I can't remember what month, and I'm sorry that I don't know when Ramadan is, but Beterbiev observes Ramadan, so he couldn't do it that month, so everything kind of fell apart, and they ended up getting this fight. So, probably better for Bivol, because you're fighting a smaller guy. It's not as, dangerous as opposed to a Beterbiev fight. This is, I'm not going to say low risk versus Canelo, but lower risk than Beterbiev for sure, and a much, much higher reward. And look, somebody mentioned something about Reynoso as a manager. I think it was Big Bro. Look, if Canelo never fought Bivol, nobody would have held it against him. Nobody was out there saying, "Oh, Canelo's ducking Bivol," even though he was his biggest threat. people for some reason keep mentioning Charlo and Benavides, right? But if
Yeah.
he never fought Bivol, nobody would have held it against him. But I think that's what makes Canelo great. He looked for the toughest guys, and if he beat Bivol, guess what? People were still not going to give him credit.
Yeah.
We were because we know how good Bivol is, but the
Mhm.
masses weren't. So it was a high risk, low reward, and low reward still being $60 million, which is not low, but it's still a very high risk fight. And as far as legacy, he would have got more props beating other guys. But I think that's what makes Canelo great, man. The fact that he took the challenges and fell short this time. Well, let's see if he can get it back.
Yeah. No, I completely agree on obviously a Bivol and Beterbiev fight. We wouldn't have seen the rise in numbers that Bivol,
Yeah.
enjoyed. I know you put those numbers of his social media followers, how it jumped so high, and it continues to grow. But yeah, if you were to beat a Beterbiev, I don't see those numbers growing too much. Nobody really knows, a Beterbiev or a Bivol outside of the boxing circles. But yeah, man, I think it was a good move by his team to fight a Canelo and ensure the first bag, and that guarantees you the second bag. We'll see what happens. I personally believe Bivol moves up in my ranks if he beats a Canelo at 168. If he, in a sense, drains and weakens himself a little bit and still, outpoints a Canelo in a different division. If he is able to go to a higher division and then beat another guy up there at cruiser or whatever, if his body allows him to carry there, then that also moves him up in the ranks. But again, it's very very hard to get that number one ranking, and there's a reason why Canelo was there so long. He was able to just crush through these divisions and do it so dominantly, which is why a lot of people find people winning this very surprising. But like you mentioned, we knew people was good, but we just saw how truly good he was. Um, and again, congrats to him, and we can't wait to see that rematch, or if that Beterbiev fight or that Joe Smith Jr. rematch comes along. We can't discount Joe Smith
Yeah.
Jr., man.
And Big Bro saying he would probably, it's a 50-50 fight against Beterbiev, and he'll probably give the edge to Bivol, man. And I kind of had a hot take last week. I don't know if people caught it or not, but I thought I was gonna get shit for it. But now I look good because I said there's two guys who can beat Canelo, uh, that have a chance at least. It was Bivol and Beterbiev, and I said both of those guys have an equal chance. You know, I thought I was gonna get shit for it. I haven't yet, but because everybody saw Beterbiev as the biggest threat. He's bigger physically. He's knocked everyone out, but I think Canelo wouldn't have as much trouble hitting Beterbiev as he did with Bivol. Because Bivol's smarter. He moves around better, more responsible defensively. But I think these are all intriguing fights, man. And the good thing about this is now, like you said, Bivol's stock goes up. Now that fight against Beterbiev versus Smith Jr., they become bigger fights now because people actually know who fucking Bivol is, right? Now
Yeah.
they recognize his name, kind of like when Andy Ruiz beat Joshua. Now there was a ton of big fights where Andy Ruiz,
Mhm.
possible big fights. He hasn't been very active since, but um, what was I gonna state, man? Oh yeah, you mentioned the numbers that I posted. Now I took screenshots when the fight was announced, Bivol against Canelo. I took screenshots when the fight was announced. I was just curious to see how the numbers would rise, right? The Canelo effect, simply by fighting Canelo, how much interest the people will have, or how many eyes on you, or you would have more as opposed to not fighting the number 1 pound guy in the world. But anyway, when the fight was announced, Bivol was at 165K followers on Instagram. The day before the fight, he was at 208K. So about, let's say, 50K jump about.
Mhm.
After the fight, he was at 403,000. So jump from 208 to 403. Um,
Almost double.
Significant jump.
Yeah.
after winning. Um, Chris, do you want to take a guess at how many he has now? So the screenshot was taken after the fight, probably Sunday. I think
Mhm.
he was at 403,000. I don't know what he's at currently, but do you want to take a guess?
I'm guessing maybe another 20K,
All right, so
hopefully.
so let's say 425K. I'm gonna say like 460. I'm gonna go ahead and click it to
Yeah,
see. 456,
yeah, okay.
456,000. You know, but I think like obviously a lot of people criticize like Instagram and Twitter and all this stuff, but I think this is a good example of these guys who are fighting the Suleskis of the world and not taking risks, right? You see Bivol, that big jump, his stock goes up. Now he can charge more money every time he fights. You got to take the risks, man. You got to fight the top guys, take some risks, and like I said, this wasn't a very high risk for Bivol because if he loses, people are just gonna say, "Oh, he lost to the best boxer in the world." But if he wins, now the whole world is at his feet, man. Everybody
Who's this guy?
becomes
Yeah.
yeah, everybody becomes a Bivol fan. Everybody loves Bivol all of a sudden. Everybody was rooting for him all of a sudden. Everybody changed their predictions somehow, went back in time and said, I told you guys Bivol had a good chance. But, I'm happy for him, man. I'm happy for him. I love his attitude. I love his demeanor. And even after the fight, he didn't overdo it. He just kind of smiled. He's saying all along that he believed in himself, and he did it, man. He made it happen. He didn't have that fake confidence like most guys. So I'm very happy for Dmitry Bivol.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that, man. I was just gonna allude to, how he carries himself inside the ring the same way he carries himself outside the ring. This is a guy that you cannot dislike, man. I was a little, like I said, I was a little upset that they booed him. He was obviously trying to give props to Canelo. He was trying to give love to the Mexican fans. You could
Yeah,
tell
he said
he's not an ill will type of guy.
well,
He's
he attempted to say
a
Feliz
gentleman.
Cinco de Mayo, right?
And usually people like cheer, but I guess they were just very salty
The people
that
are
their
just drunk.
name. But
Yeah.
no, our respect to people. Again, when the opportunity presents itself, you have to be ready, or it will show if you're not ready. It will show, and then obviously going up against a Canelo. Canelo will expose you if you're not ready, and obviously Bivol was more than ready for this challenge. Again, we mentioned that he does enjoy some natural advantages, and he used them to the best of his abilities. And so yeah, congrats to Dimitri Bivol, doing it without his anthem, without his flag, but getting the job done. So props.
Yeah, and let me go to some comments too. Aaron giving both guys props. He's saying I think Canelo's such a gifted boxer that he can definitely beat Bivol, but his style and size make it very hard to land clean shots. And he's also saying, my opinion, styles make fights. I think Canelo beats Beterbiev via KO. Beterbiev doesn't punch very hard for the division. He's a volume puncher. Um, yeah, I mean, those are still very, very intriguing fights. No matter Canelo can probably lose his next 5 fights, and people are still going to watch him. So, and there are so many big names out there that he can fight. So, we'll see. I think we saw. I don't know if Canelo's slowing down. I don't know if the 61 now pro fights have taken their toll. I know he did mention fatigue after winning the undisputed title at 68. He had a crazy like 14 months where he defeated all the champions and all that. But we'll see. We'll see. I think he's gonna have to rest, eat some more carne, and prepare for the rematch, man.
He needs to go back to what he was eating, man. He needs to go back.
Yeah, but I don't know if I have too much else. Chris, do we know how much Bivol got paid for this fight?
I don't. We'll do that research, but I mean, yeah,
Yeah, hopefully we can
yeah,
have
we'll
that
do the
next
research.
time.
But
And hopefully we can have the zone numbers too. I'm assuming they'll report it because it's pay per view. They should, right? But I hope Bivol got more than 10 million. You know,
mhm.
these guys like Plant. Plant obviously he had some leverage because he had the last belt that Canelo wanted. So he just started asking for crazy number until the Canelo team was like, fine, we'll pay you, take your belt, whatever. But I hope Bivol got paid a good amount because he deserved it. Obviously, look at the result.
If you take another look up, initially it was 53 million, but then
Yeah,
plus all the pay-per-view and all that,
yeah,
60 plus. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm assuming based on those numbers, yeah, Bivol should have got at least 10 to 12. And obviously he's got some more leverage now. He should be able to get his highest career payday from that rematch if that materializes. But yeah, man, everybody wants that payday, but you know,
Put
you're
in the
not
work,
always
man.
ready. You're not
Put in the
always
work.
ready, and Bivol was. So Bivol's
And
a man right now.
and look, I'm glad he got the opportunity. I'm glad he took it because Bivol's not a guy who's going to be calling guys out, man. This guy will fight anyone. You know, there's been a lot of boxers right now who are calling, the big names out, you know, trying to use the Canelo name, the Lomachenko name, to gain more fame. But Bivol quietly doing his work, quietly beating good opposition, and he quietly beat Canelo. Man, he didn't even make it a big deal. Just like you said, just smiled, winked at Canelo, said, pointing at the shoulder, showing the bruised shoulder. But he just took his win like a champ, and it looks like he's ready to do it again, and even ready to challenge himself by going down to 68. So yeah, look, the last thing I want to say about this is you will never see a boxing commissioner or promoter watching a UFC fight ringside. Like Dana White always watches Canelo fights at ringside, man. That's all I gotta say. Dana White is a boxing fan too. They're always watching Canelo, even if it's right in front of the octagon. He has his laptop there, watching Canelo on the side. He knows what's up.
And for me, final thoughts on this. I know we can mention other names. We can mention some of the haters. We can mention, some of the names. I feel like they can still attach their names to a Canelo and get some clout. We're not going to do that. We're also, we could also talk about the casuals who are discounting Canelo, who are just saying he's not what people thought, that he was this media-made fighter. Come on, people that know boxing know that Canelo, went above and beyond, and like you said, just came up a little short. Nah, we're not gonna play that game. We know that these are
Literally,
two amazing
a little
fighters. That
short.
it was a great performance. Hopefully they run it back. So I'm gonna leave it at that. We ain't gonna give no clout to no clout chasers today, man.
Nah, this channel is not for those people, man. We keep it real here, and we leave our bias to the side. But yeah, that was the end of that poll. Shoot, can I see it? Oh yeah. So can Canelo beat Bivol in a rematch? 57% said yes. 42% said no. So I think there's still an
What do you
an
think,
intriguing
Gio?
fact. What's up?
You think he can? You think he can?
I think he can. I think he can. I think he had a bad day at the office. Obviously, you got to give Bivol credit for that, but I think the rematch it becomes more intriguing than the first one. Will Bivol have that hangover, right, of the celebration? Not literal,
Mm.
but we see that a lot when champions, win and then they go celebrate, and Andy Reid didn't even train for a rematch against Joshua. I don't think that happens with Bivol, but you
Yeah,
never know, and I think Canelo would be better prepared, especially if it's at 68. I think feel like he'll feel better, not as heavy, and like I stated, man, a lot of those rounds he could have stole if he just lands 5, 6, 7, 8 more punches. But it's not easy against Bivol. It's not easy to land all those punches, but I think he'll be better prepared. Um, they asked Canelo at the end of the fight, "Did you ever think you were down?" He said no. They asked him, "What would you have done different if you knew that you were down?" And he just said, "Be more aggressive." And most of the time that's enough for Canelo just to step it up a little bit and break his guys down. But I think in the rematch, I think his mindset will have to be more so, let's outpoint this guy as opposed to go in for the KO like he normally does. But yeah, I think he has a chance, but we'll see. It's intriguing. It's a very intriguing fight. What do you think?
I believe he has a chance if they fight at 168, and I think that's the weight that makes most sense. I think that's the only way you can market this rematch. If you're like, okay, now you come to my division, now you come try to take my belts. You beat me at yours, let's come to mine. I feel like that's the way they're gonna market it. I think that's the one that makes sense in my opinion. I think that's where obviously Canelo feels most comfortable. That's where he will, again, weaken people just a bit, to make it interesting. And yeah, man, if Bivol's able to beat him then I think that really is a testament. I mean, it's already a testament to his skills, but that's a testament to his discipline, because it's not going to be easy to lose that weight and, still feel the confidence you feel at your natural weight. So, yeah, man, run it back. Like to see it.
Yeah, shout out to B checking in. He says, if it's at 175, nope, he's not winning. But look, I think styles make fights. We all know that. Does Bivol have Canelo's number? We'll see when they run it back. And that's another testament to Canelo's greatness, I think. This guy has fought every style. There's always a guy out there who can beat you. There's always someone out there who can beat you. And Canelo has fought against so many styles and beaten so many styles, that's a testament, like I said, to his greatness. Castillo was able to solve the Mayweather puzzle. What other examples can we give? Ruiz had Joshua's number, perhaps. There's always someone out there who can beat you. Marquez ended up knocking Pacquiao out after, 4 tries, but he still did it. There's always someone out there who has a style that's difficult for you. And, Canelo has challenged everyone, and he ran into a wall this time, but let's see if he can get it back.
I was gonna say even the great Ricardo Mayorga had Fernand Forrest's number. Anybody could get beat at any given night, and that just shows it, man.
Wasn't Forrest the one who kept beating Shane as well?
Yeah, Fernand Forrest had Shane's number.
I think he beat him twice, if I'm not mistaken. But then De La Hoya couldn't get over Shane, and I mean that's what happens when you fight everybody, man. Eventually, you're gonna lose to someone. Someone out there they may not be the greatest, but they may be really great at something that you're not, and that may be enough. So, with that being said, I'm intrigued. Hopefully, the fight happens again. It's gonna be a huge event. Hopefully, the zone doesn't hike up the prices for the next Canelo pay-per-view. And hopefully they give us a better undercard too. I was not even interested in the undercard at all. But yeah, man, that's all. Congratulations to Bivol, man.
Final question, Gio.
Yeah, go ahead.
Question: Did Canelo overlook Bivol though? In your opinion, a little bit.
I think he got overconfident in the sense that he probably thought that he was going to be able to hurt people just like every other opponent. He came out since round 1 throwing huge, strong punches. And I think he always puts his eggs in that basket, that he can hurt his opposition. When he couldn't hurt Bivol, that's, I think, when things started getting a little bit more difficult for him. But I think in the second one, he knows now that Bivol's not going to go down. He took, like we said, big punches, some big uppercuts, some big body punches, and he seemed unbothered. Now the punches to the shoulder, it was subtle, but he was reacting at times. Bivol, it was subtle, but I saw him kind of stretching his arm and then continuing with the high guard at times, and sometimes kind of tapping that shoulder, and then he continued to fight. It was subtle, but for the most part, he I don't think he was hurt by anything, and Canelo's gonna have to adjust to that.
Yeah, for me, I don't want to say he overlooked him, but I think he really believed in himself and his abilities. And since we're mentioning Shane, something just echoed. I think those words were Shane when he was gonna fight Canelo. He said, like, man, this guy can't beat me. I think Canelo thought those same things about Bivol then. Just like Shane was surprised, Canelo was surprised.
Yeah. But we'll see. That's why I think he could win in the rematch. I don't think he went into this fight 100%. Even in the weigh-ins, he didn't even look as cut as he normally does. Not sure if that was
You
because he had
can't
to.
get those. I was
What?
gonna say you can't get those cuts off a vegan. Come on, man.
I don't know if it's because he added weight, but he didn't look as cut to me. But yeah, it's gonna be good, man. Shout out to B who's shouting out ATR and Alexis. um, Big bro, uh, not impressed by Castro. Um, and then Clyde from Comics Fit says Canelo went in there as a slugger when he should have went in as a boxer. 1,000% agree, man. 1,000% agree. But when you're that great, sometimes you need these moments to kind of ground you a little bit, man. Everybody thought Canelo was unbeatable, and now we realize he's a human being too. He made some mistakes, and let's see if he can fix some in the second fight.
Yeah. What do we used to believe, Joe? Or what did the media have people thinking? Nobody's gonna, defeat Canelo. If there is somebody, I even joked about it. There might be somebody in the jungle somewhere. Well, it turns out it was somebody from Indio, California, apparently.
Apparently, I was gonna say the Russian jungle, but hey,
True, true.
I don't know, man. Let's start saying that. Let's stop saying that R word because they're gonna flag us. But whatever, man. Hey, thank you guys for keeping the chat lit once again. Did you want to discuss anything else? Did you want to preview Castaño Charlo? I forgot that was even happening, man.
We could do another podcast Thursday and give it its proper time. I think we got
You
time to do
sure?
another one. What do you think,
I
Joe?
got nothing on that fight. Honestly, I got nothing. First fight, I thought Castaño won. They're running it back. It's here at what the Dignity.
Anything else? Yeah.
It's here, but I got nothing on that. I hope Castaño wins. Not sure if he can pull it off, man. Normally, when the judges screw you over like that in a very valiant effort, I think it's gonna be hard for him to duplicate that performance. But I do hope he wins. I think he could pull it off, man. But hopefully it's all good. He got injured, right? That's why they pulled him out of the fight. So
Mhm.
hopefully that doesn't interfere with the fight. But I'm rooting for Castaño.
Yeah, we have a little interview that's coming up. Yeah, we were able to catch up with Brian Castano. Supposed to make him wait. Fight's a few days away. Yeah, man, I feel like it's gonna be another barn burner. The first one was very close. Yeah, it's gonna be a very, very tough fight. We know that Jermel is a very passionate, emotional fighter. We'll see if that plays out in that fight. If a fight breaks out the way it did the first fight, yeah, man, I think this one's a 50-50.
Yeah,
I think it's a 50-50, and I think passions are running high. I feel like it might end a knockout.
yeah.
I'm just getting shades of Maravilla Martinez versus Paul Williams too, but I don't know if it will favor the Argentine this time
Wow.
around. I just feel like it's going to end a knockout. It's just a lot of trash talking back and forth. A lot of accusations of PEDs and whatnot. Like it's yeah. So we'll see, man. We'll see what happens. But again, it's good at the Dignity Health Sports Center. Saturday, May 14th. It shares the date with Zurdo taking on a relatively known fighter in Bozell. The winner isn't mandatory for Bivol. We'll see what happens, man. Again, it's a great month of boxing. This Canelo defeat does shake up the boxing sphere, and yeah, man, Bivol, all eyes on Bivol in a sense.
Yeah, see, people in the chat know, man, how it works. People in the chat know. They're saying, they're not letting Charlo lose, you know. But big shout out to Aaron, man. Thanks for tuning in. He says, thanks for the convo and answering my questions. Y'all have a good night. Till next time, appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. But yeah, like I stated, Chris, that's the most controversial thing you've said, I think, in a while. That you're comparing this to Martinez, Paul Williams, and you think someone's getting knocked out. Normally you play very safe, but Hey, I'm proud of you, man. Proud of you. Jumping out the window a little bit. Let's see if it happens. Let's see if it
Oh,
happens.
how many how many fights in they knock out at this level? But I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of emotions. I think the crowd also in
Yeah, they both hurt each
SoCal.
other. They
I
both
think
hurt
of
each
any
other the first time.
yeah.
And like you said, if they let their emotions get to them, somebody's getting hurt for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. Anything else you want to add
Get out
before
of
we
here.
get out of here? Final
Yeah,
thoughts.
I'll be covering the Surdo fight. We got a little media approval, so I'll be
Where's that at?
obviously. That is in Ontario.
Okay.
I forget what center, but it's in Ontario, California. We got credential approvals. Obviously, I'm gonna ask him about Bivol, Canelo, and obviously, if everything goes to plan, he should win that fight. But again, never know. We don't know who this Bozoa guy is really. So, yeah, Surdo chasing that record that we won't mention the name, but that's what they're going with. But get
Uh,
out of here, mate.
yeah. And last comment. Clyde says, "Does Christian now have Bud at the top of his P4P list?" I think did you miss
Down
the
rewind.
Did you miss the combo, Clyde? We kind of went over that. Surprisingly, he does. I mean, I was shocked too. But
Surprisingly, he does.
no, surprisingly he
No, he
doesn't.
don't.
Sorry, he doesn't. Surprisingly, he doesn't. I was shocked when he said no. He says he has Usyk and Canelo kind of right now, at that number one spot. So, yeah, Bud Crawford, come on, man, stop it. Uh, Big Bro says Zurdo needs to fight a live body.
A what?
A live body. Someone who's alive, man. But look, I think that's a good way to get out of here before these guys start getting flagrant with the comments. I know Clyde is coming. I know Clyde is coming with his comments. But yeah, man. Very good fight. I think very good night of boxing. Of course, everybody was talking about the Canelo fight. Everyone forgot there was an MMA fight going on. I don't even know who fought, but of course it happens when Canelo fights, man, and when such a quote unquote shocking result happens, right? But yeah, man, good night for boxing. Thank you guys for joining us once again this week, and we'll be back soon, man. We'll be back soon. Big fight coming up this weekend. Is that on Showtime? Regular or pay-per-view?
I believe it's regular. Could be wrong though.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be tuned in, man. Yeah, shout out to you guys, man. We'll be back soon, mates.
Let's go.
Let's go, mates. Shout out to Dmitry from Indio, California.
Michael, you already know I said I'm a fun guy.
Hola amigos, soy Juan Francisco el Gallo Estrada. Quiero mandar un saludo para mis amigos de Contra las Cuerdas. Échenle muchas ganas, un abrazo, muchas bendiciones.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. You know what mine is? Let's box, bitches. It's almost fight night.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you for the support. Keep doing your thing. You're doing a great job. So thank you and best wishes.
Huge shout out to Against the Ropes.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you guys for the interview and hope to see you guys soon.
Against the Ropes, always doing the right thing.
Shout out to Against the Ropes, man. I appreciate you guys for having me, taking the time out y'all day.
Against the Ropes, #1.
Freddie Roach.
Thank you very much.